Hi, everyone. My name is Lucia Wang, and today we're going to talk about the number one sign of a healthy relationship. But before we get started, I just want to quickly go over two of the books I've written that I think would be helpful to a lot of you. If you're single, I would definitely recommend you get this book, Kissing Frogs No More: The Secret of Finding Prince Charming. This would be helpful for a man or a woman if you're looking for the love of your life. Okay. If you're married or in a long term relationship, I would recommend Fairy Tales Are for Frogs: The Reality of Happily Ever After. This is the most recent book I've written, and I think this would be very helpful to those of us who've been in long term relationships and are looking for happiness. Because I know for those of you who are in long term relationships or have been married, you can understand, you can relate to the fact that uh, just because you're married doesn't mean that it just automatically we are automatically happy and things will work out perfectly in life, and we all know that's not the case. So anyone who's married or in a long-term relationship, you will find this book very helpful. It will help you continually seek the happiness that you want. All right. And that will do it for the books, and let's get right into this topic for today. Okay. um, there's many signs of a healthy relationship, but I just want to focus on I think is the most important sign. And the number one sign is being a team. And how I'm gonna approach this is it's gonna be by each it's gonna be four things that represent a team, and it's gonna be represented by the letter of each the letter of this word. So TEAM is team. So the first one is T, and togetherness is what the T will stand for. The relationship mentality is not about, as you know, when you're in a relationship, it's not about I or you, but it's we. And that has to be the mentality when you're in a team relationship, because we have to learn to adjust to both each other and to recognize that everything we do together as a team. It's no longer about only what I want or what you want, but what works for both of us. So it's the kind of unity you would see with soldiers at war. So if you can picture, you know, men at war, you see them usually in the trenches together, shoulder to shoulder. That's how I picture a team with a relationship in regards to a man and woman. They're shoulder to shoulder. They whatever comes their way in life, they're together. Just like the soldiers in the trenches, they're together. They're no matter what comes their way, um, whether it's chaos and especially at war, a lot of violence and everything, they're together. They're weathering the storm together, and that's what I feel that a team should be with between a man and woman. If they're partners, their partnership in life, they need to be on the same page and working together as a unit. um and part of that is also sharing the same goals. I want to stop now and talk little briefly about my own previous relationships where this was not present. I think back on my last marriage, and for the most part, it was a really good marriage. But I would say somewhere along the line, we kind of grew apart. We weren't on the same page anymore. My ex husband he was a very simple man, meaning that it didn't take a lot to make him happy. He was just a very happy person who was just content with the simple things in life. You could just put him on a just give him a fishing pole and a boat, and he's happy. He's just very, very happy. Me, on the other hand, I for some reason in my mid 30s, I would say probably mid 30s to late 30s, early 40s, I was very driven. I was, and for those of you who are men who are also career driven, or women, you can relate to what I'm saying here. I was in the mindset I wanted to climb the corporate ladder. I wanted to make a lot of money. I wanted to, it was all about just material things, material wealth, and just trying, and not even so much that, but just wanting to go higher and strive higher and go, and I don't know why I felt that way. I'm not saying it's bad or it's right or wrong. It's just what it was at the time. I was driven. So what I'm trying to say is my ex-husband and I at that time, we were not on the same page. Though we were married for 15 years. Um, but we were just not at that time. of our relationship, we were not on the same page. He was just happy with living a simple life. I, on the other hand, wanted more. And uh, so there was, there was a lot of, in when we did open up two small businesses of our own, and all the stresses that go along with having a business and being a business owner, it was very, very hard on him. And that did add to a lot of distress in our marriage at the time. So I just want to say that was an example of where I my goals and his goals did not match. And I'm not saying that, every couple has to have the exact same goals, or if they don't have the same goals, things won't work out. It just depends on the couple. Um, but it does help when two people are aligned in their thinking and their goals in life, right? It does help. It does make the ride a lot more smoother. And, looking back, I, and, hindsight's always 2020. Looking back at what I've gone through, would I've taken that path again? I don't know. I don't really know. I mean, whatever path you choose, even if it doesn't turn out right, you still learn from it. And so there's personal growth and spiritual growth in whatever path we all choose in life. So I can't really say that just because the path didn't work out that it was the wrong path. Could there have been a better path? Maybe, right? But then I don't know if all the things I've learned would have been learned at some other point in time. So without getting too philosophical, I just want to say that it's not that every couple has to be, they have to think exactly the same way all the time. But what I am saying is that, the togetherness for a couple is important. That, obviously there's all kinds of marriages out there. We've all seen marriages where two people are not really on the same page. He has his life, she has her life, and they once in a while they'll meet in the middle, or if they don't see each other that much because they have real demanding jobs, she's busy, she's traveling, he's traveling, and they don't really see each other that much. They're not really together. They are, on paper. If you're married, you can say, yeah, we're married. But when I'm talking, the relationship I'm talking about is more of a team. Is when you know that when you see people with each other, you know that they have a very happy relationship because they're a team. So that's what I want to say about that. So when normally if you picture two people that are, if you can think of people in your lives or the couples in your lives that represent a happy, healthy marriage or relationship, you will notice that this thing about being together is there. The two people are together, and you can tell that they're very happy with each other. Okay, the second one is E for equality. It's when the both parties are treated as equals. The thoughts, opinions, and feelings of both parties matter and are of equal value. So there isn't a hierarchy of one person more superior than another. There are no power struggles in a healthy relationship when there is equality between two partners. The two hold high regards for each other and treat one another with respect. When conflict or decisions need to be made, they make them by taking into consideration both of their viewpoints and then come up with a solution or a compromise that is in the best interest of the both of them. So, this thing about equality is very important. Uh, it doesn't matter who makes more money. I know some people in the old days we sometimes think the traditional way of thinking is that whoever makes more money gets the most respect or gets the more say in the marriage of decisions. I don't I don't subscribe to that philosophy. I think being a housewife, if you're a housewife and you're home with the kids all day and you don't work, that doesn't mean you're less inferior than your husband just because he goes out and works from 9 to 5. So they're both equal from that respect. Now, I'm not saying they're equal as far as money goes, but there is value in women being at home, taking care of kids. You could call that a babysitter. You can call that a maid, someone taking care of the house. Regardless, whether you're even though you're a housewife, it does not mean that there's no value to that. There is value. Some people will say being a housewife is much more difficult than a man going out and working from 9 to 5. As I don't have children, but I do have friends and family that do have children, and I do know that it is a challenge while being at home and being a full-time mom, and then also taking care of the house and then getting the food ready for your husband when he comes home. So there is value in that. And um, when there's an equal partnership, both parties both respect each other completely. There's not this inequality where, oh, just because I make more money than you, then I get to have the final say in decisions. That's not the case. In a good relationship, both parties are respected. And here's the thing: when you love somebody, you do. If you really truly love somebody, you do want their input. You do want them to be part of the decision making, so that they're happy also in the relationship. It's not a very happy relationship where only one person's needs are getting met, or only one person in the relationship is making the decision, and while the other person is left out and they never get a say in anything, and they're just kind of just going with the program, and they're just like a wallflower, right? They're not active in the relationship. So we all know that equality is very, very important, and sometimes if we're not careful, we forget that, and it's easy to, once you allow this inequality to happen in a relationship, it's harder to realize it and then get out of that thinking. So it's just something to keep in mind, that in a healthy relationship, two people have to be equal. They have to be treated as equal. I'm not saying they're equal, but they have to be treated as such. And that's really, really important. And I know in the few couples that I've seen that are very happy, this equality factor is there. I'm always amazed, and always uh, I'm always amazed at how, and admire how two people, husband and wife, can just talk to each other, and then when they talk to each other, they're looking at each other. There's so much respect and love there, and that's really, really a special thing to witness. And so, if any of you have ever seen that in a couple, that's that's the example that you want to follow. You want to follow that couple that is truly in sync with each other. They're together. There's equality when they speak to one another. They're speaking as equals. Um, and I don't want to get too much into examples of where couples are not that way. I mean, we all know of couples that are not healthy. We all have seen relationships that are not that healthy, where the couples are not equal. One's always talking over the other, or the other is always correcting the other. That's not really very healthy. And the reason why is because the fact is, none of us are perfect. We all make mistakes. We all have our strengths and weaknesses. So it's not right if one person is constantly critiquing somebody else or correcting them. um, that's not what healthy communication is. Two people, whatever the two people want to talk about, that both people need to be in tune with each other and respectful of each other's feelings and thoughts. So that is equality. The third one is A, for appreciation. There's a genuine level of respect, appreciation, and recognition for each other's contributions to the relationship. Unlike people who take each other for granted, they express gratitude and are thankful every day for each other. Appreciation can be expressed in various ways. Some people just verbally express appreciation by speaking directly to the partner, or some may choose to do something nice for their partner, like to buy a gift or treat them to a nice meal, massage, or some men will buy flowers. Um, and so there's many ways to show appreciation. There's not just one way to show appreciation. But the key that I want to say here is that you will, oftentimes this is sad but true. For those of us who've been in long-term relationships, we can definitely agree to this. Is that for some reason, after we get married or we've been together for a very, very long time, we take each other for granted. I don't know why that happens. I just think maybe after a while, all of us just get a little bit too complacent, uh, maybe too lazy to just keep putting forth the effort every day. In the book, in my book, Fairy Tales Are for Frogs, I do touch upon this area of taking each other for granted. And in my book, I do reference the idea of um, the way I like to view, not to prevent taking each other for granted, is that every day when I wake up, I think of, for those of us who make our beds every morning, I don't know how many of you make your beds, but I, for one, I do make my bed every morning. And if you think about making your bed every morning, there's days you wake up, you're not in the mood to make your bed, right? I know there's some days I'm just so tired, or whatever is that I'm feeling, if I'm not in the mood, or it's raining outside, and whatever. I may not be in the mood to make my bed, but I still push myself to make my bed. And I think that is like the attitude that we need to put forth when we are in a relationship with a significant with our significant other. We need to think of it as making our bed. That regardless how we feel every day, we need to still put our best foot forward. And I know that's easier said than done. So don't get me wrong. None of us are perfect. We can't do this 100% of the time. But most of the time, I think we need to try to practice this because I think it's going to produce a healthy effect in the relationship. Um, if you wake up every morning and you put just like you make your bed, right? You put your best foot forward. You treat each other with kindness and appreciation. That will go a long way. If there's something, if you just remember to do that, like making your bed every morning, that will help to build a really healthy, happy relationship. So, in appreciation, I do want to say something else about appreciation. Uh, and this may be geared towards us women. So, men, feel free to hear this too, because you'll appreciate what I'm going to say. Is that I don't know if all you women think this way, but I know when I was married the first couple times, I was in the conservative mode, meaning I was trying to save money. We were trying to a um, build our savings account to be able to afford to buy a house. This is early on when I first got married. We were living in my first husband and I were living in a condo, and the goal was trying to save up enough money so we could put a down payment on for a house at some point. So us women, if you for those of you women can relate, I was in this mindset of I just wanted to save money. So I started to cut out some of the things that I thought would be helpful to save money. And one of them was I told my ex-husband at the time, my first husband at the time, don't buy me any flowers, right? I thought, and we all know, especially roses, they're very, very expensive. So I thought it was helpful for the team to save money and not to buy flowers. But later on, after my second marriage, I also practiced this thing about not buying flowers, right? And us women can justify that, right? They don't last too long. They sit in the water in the vase for about a week and then they all wilt and die. So what's the point, right? It doesn't last forever. So why waste the $60 to $100 for a dozen roses when they're not going to last forever anyway? And that has merit. Believe me, I'm not saying that's a wrong way of thinking. Okay, I was guilty of that thinking for quite a long time, the first two marriages. But it's not until my previous marriage that I realized that by us women taking away that gift giving that men were doing, it is you are limited. You are kind of um, you're not allowing him to show his appreciation, and that's really important, right? And so I've realized that and women in general are more expressive than men anyway. So for us to show our appreciation in so many different ways, we write little notes, little love notes to our husband, we buy little gifts. There's so many ways that we can show affection, but men, they're not wired that way automatically, right? So the the go to one the for the most popular way men show affection is to buy flowers for their girlfriend or their wife. So I just want to you know say to us women, let your guy buy you flowers. It's yeah, in the whole scheme of things, it's not really that much money. I mean, if they're buying you roses every week, that's a different story, right? Then it could add up. But if they're just buying you roses on your special occasions, once in a while, once in a blue moon, or on your birthday, or whatever, it just once in a blue moon, once in a while, they're buying you flowers. Let them buy you flowers, even though it's not the most economical way to be in that relationship because you want to save money. I wouldn't cut corners there because because and you men could probably agree to this too, right? The minute we tell you don't buy us flowers, right? 10 years later we'll be bitching or complaining. Why don't you show that you love me? Why don't you say that you love me? Why don't you buy me anything anymore? Well, that's because we cut that out, right? So, you know, it's not fair to the guys, right? We try to say something and we cut off their one of very few avenues to show appreciation, and then years later we feel like we're neglected or we feel like our man's not paying attention to us or they don't appreciate us. Well, we added to that in some way. So I've learned that too. So now I always I always tell younger women, especially, let your guy buy you flowers. Enjoy it. Don't just, let him do that because it's important. It's important to let a guy express his emotions. It's important for him to show his appreciation. And it's good. And seriously, if you really think about it, when you get flowers, do you really get upset? No, of course not, right? When you think back when you're in the dating phase, courtship phase, when your boyfriend, the first time he surprised you with flowers, were you not feeling great, right? Not only was he so excited to give you those flowers, but when you actually got them, you were just on cloud nine. You were so happy, like, oh wow, he actually thought about me. He thought about me, and it's his way of showing that he loves you or he likes you very much at that point in time, right? So, you know, I don't think there's ever a time that I've gotten flowers where I didn't like it or I felt repelled by it. Um, so, a message to us women: let your guy get you flowers. That's just one way to ensure that he will always be able to show appreciation to you. Always, you know, because guys don't, they're not wired like we are. We can show appreciation so many different ways. And I'm not saying they can't learn. Of course, guys can learn to show appreciation. I mean, like I said here, you could, we can make a nice meal for our husband. We can make his favorite meal, or we can bake their favorite cake or dessert that they like. And these are little ways that we show affection, right? Um, and like I love a massage. So whoever I'm with, I'd say, hey, if you want to make me, if you want to please me, give me a massage, give me a back massage or a shoulder massage, and that's a way that you can, communicate to your man of how you want him to show appreciation. Um, and then it's just the simple things like just saying, thank you. Sometimes it doesn't. I'm not saying we have to buy each other things all the time. These, but I am saying that us women are more, it's easier for us to show appreciation than for a man. So if a man wants to buy you flowers, let him buy you flowers. Okay, the last one is M for mercy. And there's compassion showing love and kindness to each other. What I mean by that is it's easy after a while because we all have our flaws, and we all have different personalities. And after a while, when you're with someone for a long time, their flaws or their personalities could irritate you sometimes. It could aggravate you, and vice versa. We have our flaws too, and our personalities, and sometimes it's sometimes after a while when you're with someone for a long time, it's hard to tolerate or to accept someone's flaws after a while. And this is very important for a team relationship, is to is to give grace to others at times when they need it. And um, it's it's because when you realize both of you are not perfect, and you're able to love each other unconditionally, and then accepting each other for all their faults, flaws, and imperfections. We all need unconditional love because we are not perfect human beings. We don't want to feel judged or criticized by others. When we can fully love ourselves and accept strengths and weaknesses of ourselves, is when we can give grace and mercy to others. This is important. Um, when we can fully love ourselves and accept the strengths and weaknesses of ourselves, is when we can give grace and mercy to others. Have we ever been with someone who doesn't seem to be able to, who always thinks that they're always right, and they're so quick to criticize other people, but yet they give the impression like they're perfect? Folks, I'm here to say that if there's a person that's acting like that, it's because they haven't gotten in touch with their own flaws. We are all imperfect. And I really believe that when we come to the place in our journey of life that we realize that we ourselves are not perfect, we are then able to extend that grace to others, right? Um, but if we're at this place where we think we're above others or we're superior to others, then everyone is going to seem like they're inferior, and then we feel like we can just criticize everybody as if we know what's right and best, and that everyone else is wrong and we're right. And that's not a healthy mindset to be in when you're trying to be in a relationship built upon a team mentality. it's very, very unhealthy when you feel that you're more superior than your significant other. That's not a healthy place to be. And it doesn't matter how intelligent you are. I don't care how many, I don't know if you have a PhD or a master's degree, it doesn't matter how many degrees you have. That does not make you more superior than your significant other. That this is not, this mercy thing is being at the maturity level when you realize that you yourself are not perfect. And oftentimes, a lot of people don't realize that till much later on, or something a catastrophe happens in their lives, or a wake up call, right? We all hear people that I know people that were not very nice people, but then when something happened to them, whether they got a heart attack or a stroke or something significant that happened in their lives, they became humbled, and they became more appreciative of the people around them, and they realized that they themselves are not perfect. Um, so it's very important, this factor of being having mercy for others. It's not easy, trust me. It's not easy, as I've always said, it's not easy to love the unlovable, right? Having compassion for other people is not easy. That's something that Mother Teresa does every day, and then she's wired that way. God bless her. She's just a wonderful soul of a human being who's selfless. So for her, it's much easier to be that way, and show compassion to everyone. But for the rest of us, it is a struggle. I'm not going to say that it's easy, but I think we have to get to that point if we truly want to build a healthy relationship where both parties feel that they're respected, and they're allowed to be who they are, for all their good and their bad. Um, and let me see what else I want to say is, okay, yeah, it's just basically is, um, and just look at yourself as an example, right? If we know we're not perfect, right? So sometimes when we make mistakes, because we do, right? We try not to. I think everyone, we need to give everyone the benefit of the doubt that no one wakes up in the morning looking to start a fight, or looking to find trouble, or looking to make somebody's life miserable. I don't think, in general, normal, happy human beings don't operate that way. I think we all wake up with good intentions, and no one wakes up with a bad intention to try to hurt other people. Um, but with that said, we ourselves, even though we wake up with those good intentions, we still make mistakes, right? We can get into a bad one day. We can have a bad hair day. We can have something happen to us, and we're in a bad mood all of a sudden, right? So when we are not perfect and we are in a bad mood, do we not want others to show us compassion at that point? Or would or do you want someone to not show compassion and argue with us and tell us why we shouldn't feel the way we feel, and make us feel even worse than we feel, right? So from that perspective, we all need mercy, and all of us. Doesn't matter. Even if you're right most of the time, and every now and, or even if you're if you're happy most of the time, you still have those bad days. Those bad days is what I'm talking about. You still want others to be able to accept you for the way you are, especially in a relationship. Very, very important. So I hope this has been helpful. But this is the number one sign, I think. An important sign is when you can tell when there's a healthy relationship, is when there's a team mentality, and these and in summary, it's the togetherness, the equality, appreciation for each other, and the mercy for each other that are important, that makes are the qualities that are important, that makes up a team. And becoming a team is what will lead to a successful, healthy relationship. So let me know if this was helpful. If you resonate with anything I said, feel free to click like and share if you like this video. And definitely hit the subscribe button if you want to know when my next video is going to be out. And thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Okay, bye.